with you, and we are continuing actually the topic of the 10 words, the 10 commandments. Last week, when we thought we had finished our series, I guess we are finished our series, Ross, because
Well, I
last
thought we
week,
were. I
well,
thought we were.
we thought so. G'day, Seth. Hey, Seth is coming with us to Egypt and Israel. This is great.
Yeah,
This
now.
is
Yeah.
this is the first time. Dave, g'day, Dave. Who else is there? Marlene, Ronnie Fulcher, Pam. See, I'm doing my romper room thing already.
Look, while you talk, Jono, I'm gonna put up. Speaking of Seth, I'm gonna put up this the thumbnail for this class. Check this out because I want this. Look at this. Here we go. And
there it is.
Look at that.
10 word. Look, now who's that? Who's that in the middle?
That's Moses, man. That's a Texas style Moses.
A Texas Moses. Oh, that's great. Texas
Isn't that
edition.
beautiful?
This is what we're going to be talking about. So this is the kind of quality that Seth produces. So this is Seth's first time in Israel, right? Is this his first time in the Middle East?
No, he went with me when he was 16, and so it's been a few years. Toby's been a couple of times. Zach's been once. Ty, my oldest, all the boys have been. But this is Seth's. It's going to be a second time, but man, this is going to be a totally different trip. Egypt, Jordan, and Israel.
Took the photo myself, Seth says. We're doing. This is the one to come on too. He's chosen the best one, the Ultimate Tanakh Tour, of course, and beginning in Cairo on the 31st of October, going through Egypt for a number of days. We're doing as much as we can, and then that culminates at St. Catherine's, the traditional Mount Sinai. We're going to ascend that, cross over the Gulf of Aqaba to Jordan, and continue on in Jordan in the biblical land, and Mount Nebo, Petra, all of the things. And
look,
and then,
I'm going to put this, since you're talking tour, just so they have a website to go to sign up. They really need to do it quick.
TANAKH, you really do, because we're nailing down reservations now. We're finalizing numbers. We still do have a little bit of room in the Egyptian Jordan tour. And the second leg of this year's Ultimate Tanakh Tour is, of course, Israel. And we'll be continuing back to back with those tours. You can do one or the other. You can do both. And if you do both, you will get a $100 combination discount. But we will be crossing into Israel on the 12th of November, concluding on the 19th. And it is going to be awesome. So if you're thinking about coming, now is the time. Go to the website, tanakhtours.com. Place your deposits and reserve your place, because we are starting to nail things down. Seth's coming. We're going to have some serious fun. And there is the website that he put up there in the comments. Now, getting back to the topic of the Texas style. Now, I had no idea, right? We were thinking when we left off last week, we did we did the blessings and the curses, because, of course,
we sort of did a really deep dive on the Shapira manuscript with the 10 words according to the Shapira manuscripts with the blessings and curses, and we thought we were pretty much done. We were talking about what to hit them with this week.
What are we going to do this week? And we would let you know. Well, during the week, g'day, Jeff. During the week, I came across an article in the Torah.com, which is an exceptional website that we love so very much, and they are coming out with the goods. And this particular, last few weeks, or maybe it's just selected attention, Ross, but they really have had a lot of 10 Commandments topicked articles. This one, the 10 Commandments in Every Classroom, the Texas Bill version. This is by Professor Mark Bretler and Professor Jed Wyrick. Now, Mark Bretler, of course, is I think the primary contributor to one of our favorite publications,
the Jewish Study Bible.
That would be this one, the Jewish Study Bible, and the wonderful study notes therein. So when something comes out with him attached to it, I'm always interested to read it. So I don't even have any room on my desk. I'm just going to open a drawer and put it there.
That's all right.
So we decided to do that. Now, what has happened is I've read this and it's on a topic that I had no idea about, and I'm interested. I flicked it to you because this is clearly an American thing, and I thought, well, surely you know all about this. So it says, this is the way it opens. The Texas Bill 1515 requires classrooms to display not just the 10 Commandments, but a specific version created by, ready? The Fraternal Order of Eagles. The Fraternal Order of Eagles, found on monoliths across the US. Is this, the question is asked, is this a legitimate version of the Decalogue? And I thought, well, I don't know. Is it? I mean, I was aware, Ross, that the 10 Commandments was displayed in courthouses, in classrooms, in town halls, and all this sort of stuff. And they're now starting to remove that. And I think we're seeing the results of that in society at large.
We can't have that in society. I mean, we can't have anything like the 10 Commandments in courthouses, or, I mean, it's too much.
That's just too much. Too religious. But of course, I think removing that, and I'm sure you would agree, and everyone here would probably agree, that's a detrimental move. In any case, the version of the Decalogue that they are removing is the fraternal. What is it? The fraternity of
Fraternal Order of the Eagles, which I had never heard of this fraternity. But evidently, let me just say this. First of all, yes, this is an American thing, and I was even born in Texas, Jono. I live in Louisiana now, but I was born in Texas. So, it was sort of near and dear. Let's see what those Texans are doing, standing up for the 10 words. And when you sent me this, I have to be honest, I'd never heard of the Fraternal Order of the Eagles either. But by the way, in the description, Jono, I put a link to the article of thetorah.com, the link to this video that people are watching right now, so they can get the article that we read. This was brand new to me too, but it's really exciting. Now, you can still join, by the way, should you choose to. You can still join the Fraternal Order of the Eagles, Jono. Let me tell you who you'll be in the company with in the past. Kennedy, Reagan, both Roosevelts. So this is some, big high ups in the political world. First ladies, Eleanor Roosevelt, Bess Truman, entertainers, Bob Hope, Tony Orlando, Cecil B. DeMille, the famous producer director of the Ten Commandments movie.
Yeah.
Now, you and I both know that just because somebody is in Hollywood, you don't necessarily want to be in that company. So back to your question, what is this version of the 10 Commandments?
Well, before we get there,
about all kinds. I'm not going to get there yet.
Hang on. You piqued my interest. What is the secret handshake of this thing? Like, how did this begin, and how does one get into it? What?
I don't know, but let me just show you
society.
It is a society. I don't know how secret it is, but let me show you. Hold on. Yeah. I got us a photo. If I can get my mouse to move over, here we go. Okay. Watch this. Check this photo out.
Okay.
Now, in the 50s, when the Fraternal Order of the Eagles put this out, notice the all-seeing eye on the top, which some are going to immediately cry foul, it's some kind of secret, the 10 Commandments. And you've got, now notice, I just want people to appreciate the artwork here. We'll get into the meat of the matter shortly, but you have your 2 stone tablets. Notice one has 1, 2, and 3 on the one tablet. And then I guess 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on the other. Star David in the middle. The 10 words according to the Fraternal Order of the Eagles. And then you have the British flag, I guess, and the American flag, eagle in the middle. Anyway,
and it says presented by Youth Guidance Commission, Fraternal Order of the Eagles. But the eagle is that the hero? Is that how that's pronounced? That's the a little piece of Constantinian. And then you've
Christianity splashed in, a little bit of.
Yeah, that represents the sign that Constantine saw in the sky that decided that he should revise all the Mithra cult into Christianity. And this is
Go ahead. I was going to say one more thing before we ignore this, and someone in today's society brings this up. You can go and look up the Fraternal Order of the Eagles, and you will find some cases back in history where they were only concerned with the only people that could be in this club, the Fraternal Order of the Eagles, were white. So you
Oh,
had to
really?
be, yeah, sort of one of those white Anglo-Saxon kind of deals.
Ah.
So I don't know. I'm
What about Jewish?
sure.
I mean, can they be Jewish? I mean, they've got a Star of David.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, and we'll let me just touch on that since you asked.
Yeah.
There is an introductory piece that I read in this article, and then it led me to something else. And they mention in this article a priest, a minister, and a rabbi worked
Mm,
together to come up with this particular version. Here's what it says, and then
interesting.
I don't want to go too deep, but you brought it up.
Go
The
ahead.
Eagles text was compiled by a minister, a priest, and a rabbi who were living in the Minneapolis area. This is actually what happened. It's not the beginning of a joke, says Bretler. We cannot determine exactly who they were or whether any form or any of them had advanced professional training in biblical studies.
Mm.
So, a priest, a rabbi, and a
Walk into a
minister.
bar and say, "Let's
Yeah,
come up with 10 commandments." Now, have they added or taken away from? This is the first question I'm sure on the lips of many, because it does appear to be a revised version. I mean, you're not going to put
yeah,
everything, and if you do put
uh-huh,
everything, which version do you take? Do you take Exodus? Do you take Deuteronomy? These are some of the questions that come up.
yep.
And if we're going to put one, on school halls and courthouses and all this sort of stuff, is it okay to have just an abridged version? Is there anything wrong with an abridged version to refer to? These are some of the
Yep.
questions. Is it good? Is it bad? What's the general feeling on that, Ross?
Well, it's all over the board, Jono. You nailed some of the top questions. And think about this. There is a large swath of people, both in not only in the United States, but I'm sure in Australia and other places of the world, who are very conservative, biblical, who would say, yes, we want our school children to learn the Ten Commandments, and yes, we want the Ten Commandments emblazoned on the halls of the judicial systems throughout the world, and yet,
Mhm.
all of that. But then to your next question is, which version is it? And is it truncated? Is it abbreviated? And does it match closer to Exodus? Does it match closer to Deuteronomy? And all of those questions we are going to jump into tonight. And I'm excited because I thought that we were probably finished with the 10 words until you sent me this. And I began to look into it and I thought, this is so cool. Because at the end of this, I think what we'll do for fun is we would be interested for those who want to play along to say in the comments, are you thumbs up or thumbs down on should we have the 10 Commandments?
Mm.
This, by the way,
This particular version.
and let's say, by the way, this Texas Senate Bill 1515 was proposed in May of 2023. So this is pretty new, but they
Mm,
shelved it.
mm.
They basically postponed the vote indefinitely. So it's sitting there, but part of the bill says that it must be the Fraternal Order of the Eagle version. That's part of the bill.
Right.
They need to
Dave's
watch
just
our series. Yeah.
yes, Dave's given us a little bit of background on the what is this? The red and how do I pronounce that? Is that ensign? The red
The red
ensign or
ensign? Yeah, I'm not looking
ensign
at it.
or red duster, as it is occasionally known, is a flag that originated in the early 17th century as a British ensign flown by the Royal Navy. It was later
There you
adopted
go.
specifically by British merchantmen to be flown as the civil ensign of the British merchant fleet. There you
There
go.
you go.
Thank you, Dave. And so now, if I had my way, I'd put up the 10 words as is represented in the Moses scroll. And I
Yep.
am interested. Um, is this a particular ensign? Oh, good. Is this particular version of the 10 words closer or further away from that version? I'm also interested in that. Where shall we begin,
All right. All
Ross?
right. So first of all, I see Christo's comment. He says, "Can we get a Jewish edition?" And I would say, all of them are Jewish editions that
All of
we've
them are.
studied so far, whether we're talking
Mm.
about the Nash Papyrus, the version in Exodus or Deuteronomy of the Masoretic text, Exodus or
The All
Deuteronomy of the
Souls.
Samaritan Pentateuch, the All Souls, and so forth. And all of these are Jewish. So the question then becomes, yeah, which Jewish one, Christo? Do you want Exodus? Do you want Deuteronomy? So
Mm.
here's what this group did, the priest, the rabbi, and the minister, when they put together this edition that became known as the Order of the Eagle edition.
Mm.
They followed, first of all, these are the parameters. They used King James English. Now,
All
remember,
right.
this is in the 50s in America.
Mm.
It's not the Deep South; it's in Minnesota, it seems.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
evidently, the King James version. They chose Exodus over Deuteronomy. Now, those who've been with us a while know that there is a difference between the two. The Hebrew Bible, the Torah, the Pentateuch has two versions. You would think that at least these would match. They don't.
Mm.
But this particular version uses Exodus. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. Christo just said I could make one of both Exodus 20 and Deuteronomy 5 for my home. Well, it's interesting you should say that because that's what was produced at Qumran, was it not,
Yep,
Ross? There
that's
was a
right.
version that, particularly when it came to the Sabbath commandment, they went, this one or that one? Let's put them both in. So you
Yep.
have, observe the seventh day because 6 days the Lord created, da 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 da. And also because you were, slaves in Egypt, and you don't want to make sure everyone has a day off, and so they put both of that in.
Yep.
So what you're after there, Christo, is the Qumran version. That's the the All Souls. Does the All Souls have both?
That's right. The All Souls
Okay.
does a lot of conflating the two, Exodus and Deuteronomy. But
Mm.
here, the Fellowship of the Eagle, what is it called? I keep for the order, the Fraternal Order of the Eagle, the FOE, FOE. Is
Yeah,
that? Yeah, that's interesting that
sounds
the
very
acronym
Thunderbirds
is
to me.
FOE. So the FOE of the version uses King James English only Exodus, and then it abbreviates it greatly. Okay.
Hmm.
So, what this article by Bretler does, if you go through, you can see the way that it reads. So, I'd say we're ready to jump into this thing if you are, Jonah.
All right,
You want to
so it
look at it, or
kicks off.
yeah,
Mhm.
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the way that it does this, and we've discussed this a number of times before, obviously, in order to have 10 commandments out of the 9 that are represented in Deuteronomy and Exodus, you have to either split the first one or split the last one in order to make 10. In this case, they have chosen to kick off with "I am the Lord thy God" as an introduction. Ross, this is not counted as a word. Is that correct?
Okay, so this is excellent. I'm glad you brought that up. You just sparked my memory. Because this is so problematic, anyone, if you want a refrigerator magnet that I keep referring to,
Mm,
and you want the 10 commandments because you want people to come in your home and see the wonderful display of the 10 words there, or you want to put one at your school, or you want the town hall to have it. How do you number it? Well, it depends. If you're Jewish, there are a couple of different ways depending on which piece of Jewish literature you read. If you're Protestant, if you're Lutheran, if you're Catholic, because there are no numberings in the
mm.
biblical accounts, either one. Well, the Fraternal Order of the Eagle decided against even putting numbers, Jono. So
I
if let me
see, I
pull this
see.
up one more time, just so that
Mhm.
people can see this is what they put forward. And these were put all over the US in various places. Look, there are no numbers here. In fact, it's just there's really it's not clear. I did this before the show. I wanted to see,
Mm.
do they even number them? And according to Bretler's article, he says that they're generally published in 12 lines, no number one, number two, number three, number four.
Now I can
Yep, go
if
ahead.
sorry to interrupt. So I'm looking at this and I love the fancy, capitals. I think that's great, but that certainly serves as an indicator, I think, because of the color, the capital, and the placement as to where they believe, the 10 commandments are divided.
Yep,
Um, Obviously, thou. thou, remember, honor, thou, 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 thou. And you count
It's
all the way down
close.
the left hand side, and you have 10. Ross.
No, I didn't come up with 10. Did I miscount? So
No, no. What
where
I'm
do you
saying. Well, let me say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've got 10. If you go down the left hand column with the red capitals, you will come up with 10. And I am the Lord your God serves as a
now
title in a
okay.
large font.
Okay, if you call that a title. Yeah, I got you. I got you.
Hmm. Yeah.
I got you. So
Um,
basically there are no numbers beside them though.
and
So you
no, but
can
fascinatingly,
extrapolate
and
that.
yeah, sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's fascinating that where I think the Catholic tradition might. No, it's not the Catholics. It's the Lutheran tradition and Protestants that thou shalt have no other gods before me. Number one, thou shalt not make for thyself a graven image would be number two. But what they've done here is put that second thou on the right hand side, top line. You'll notice, and that you've got your fancy capital there, but it's not red, and it doesn't start on the next line. So they're kind of saying, trying to keep everybody happy here, saying here's some sort of a break here, and we're moving into the next one if that's what you prefer. But
Yeah.
I like the way that they've done this. It's interesting. They're trying to keep everybody happy. Go ahead.
Yeah, so maybe that's it. But one of the things that is interesting also in light of that is yes, keeping everyone happy because they don't really count them. They don't put numbers by because if you put numbers, then you're going to have a Jewish person or a Christian, Lutheran, Catholic,
Mm,
somebody go, that's not the way it looks in our. So
yeah,
this is sort of a generic list, an
yeah.
abbreviated. What could the harm be? And we'll get into our opinions, but I'll be honest. If there was a version, Christo brought it up. He was willing to do one out of Exodus and Deuteronomy. What's the harm, right? All right. Because if somebody says, "Well, you can't do that because it has to be word for word," then you go, "Well, which word for word to which? Exodus,
This is it.
Deuteronomy." So
Uh,
anyway,
so speaking of now, you use the word generic, and that comes into play right off the bat because it says, "I am the Lord your God," and it uses that as a title heading. Um, and what it omits is who brought you out, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage.
yep,
Or, as it says in the Moses scroll, I think it says, who liberated you from
that's
the
right.
land of Egypt. Um, and who is the who? Well, that is Israel, of course. And now, if you're representing this over in the States primarily, that doesn't apply to everybody. Now you're in a different country, but you're still upholding the 10 words, if you like. So it becomes generic just to introduce it as an abridged version. I am the Lord thy God. Is there anything wrong with that, Ross? What do you think?
Well, I think it is. It takes away the context, and at least in my opinion, I mean, the whole document, as you often refer to it in our personal conversation, it is a liberating document in a way.
Yes.
It is a document that is tied to historical context. Now, you're Jewish. I'm not. You and I have had some great conversations about this, but here's the thing: you would tell me, I think it's great. I think I'm speaking for you because I've heard you say
Please.
this. I
Mm,
think it's great that you would model your life after these commandments, because that's what ultimately I think the Pentateuch is telling us is going to happen. Is that
mm,
it is how do you say it? It is you can replicate it, you can repeat it, and you can test it. And
mm.
the nations of the world should, if this is modeled in the right way, look at the seed of Israel and say, "What a wonderful nation this is, who has a
What
God
a
so
wise and
close."
understanding nation that can call on the Lord their God and
Yeah,
have him so near to him that he would, bless them as a result. And and as I've often said, who would observe such a thing and go, Yeah, I'm not going to do any of
yeah,
that."
I'm not interested. Yeah, yeah,
Of course, this is what we do. This is the reason why advertising works, because we're shown, how this was going to benefit our lives and how great this is, and other people that are enjoying these things, and we go,
yeah.
"Oh, maybe I want that. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should replicate that." This is quite clearly the implication.
Yeah.
So,
I once, by the way, just quickly, I once
go ahead.
bought an exercise program off the television It was one of those late night deals, and you see the guy that's in really great shape, and it's a P90X, and I said, I got to get that. I have to get that, and I ordered it. And the best exercise I got for a while was jumping over that box that I didn't put up out of the way. Ultimately, I did it though. I did do it. But no, you're right. The idea is that if you see something
Mm,
is beneficial to another group, that's the greatest marketing tool, if you will, to spread this wonderful covenant throughout the earth. And what a
mm,
wonderful world it would be. If you don't, if you just say that the Lord is God, and you don't have the context about liberating Israel,
mm.
I think that that could be a little bit of a problem.
Now,
But
in
yeah,
defense of the 50s, they're preaching to the choir. People, generally speaking, have already accepted that the Lord is God.
yep,
They don't necessarily need here and now the backstory as to why they believe that. They
yep.
really should. It is upon them to be familiar with their Bible. And I think what we have here is an agreed assumption. Everyone agrees that the Lord is our.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah, yep.
the Lord.
Put a
Yeah,
check by it. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I got you. And
Go
and
ahead.
and to that point, if you're looking for something to spur the memory to trigger you to think of, most people can say if you start off with "I am the Lord your God," most people who know the Bible say, "Who brought you forth from the land of Egypt to be," so that it's almost enough to get you started, and that is listed on this one, as you point out, maybe as a heading. So anyway,
Hmm.
let's roll through. Let's get the other ones there.
All right. So then it goes the first one, the first one, the next
Yeah,
text says, "Thou shalt have," this is the fraternal order of eagles, "thou shalt have no other gods before me." King James, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." Okay, check. That's easy.
yep,
Then here we go. "Thou shalt not," this is the fraternal order of eagles. I'll read first. "Make to thyself any graven images." Ross, there's a lot of
yes.
text that they
Let me
leave
let
out.
me
What do you make
just
of
let me show you. So just one more time to remind everyone, the Fraternal Order of the Eagles version that is mandated by Texas Senate Bill 1515
it? Hmm.
in from the 50s, it uses King James English. It uses the version from Exodus. So, but notice what it has. It has identical, "You shall not make unto thee any graven image." That's what's on the Fraternal Order.
Mhm.
But the King James says, "Or any likeness of anything that's in the heaven above the earth beneath the water." The all again, it's just abbreviated. So far, the Ten Commandments begin with this idea that I'm the Lord your God. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make any graven images. This is sort of the way I think I
Mm.
remember memorizing these as a child. And it makes me wonder. I don't have perfect recall here, but I wonder if this version was one which made it into the churches in the 70s when I was growing up. In fact, keep talking. I'm going to go get my little boy
Go
Bible, the one I had
go and
when
do
I was
that
a little
because
boy.
I would not be surprised. And while you're doing that, I'm just going to remind everyone what the Moses Scroll says in this particular regard. "You shall not make for yourselves a carved thing or any formed thing which is in the heavens above or which is on the earth below. You shall not bow down to them, and you shall not serve them. Ani Elohim Elohecha." So it's shorter and more to the point. Uh, in Exodus and in Deuteronomy, it elaborates and it conflates another commandment within the Moses scroll in there as well, serving as a caveat, if you like. It goes on to say, "Because I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generation of them that hate me." And the implication is that if you engage in idolatry, it's because you hate me and I'm going to punish your children for it. And there's a number of verses like that in Exodus, a number of verses like that throughout the Tanakh. But there's also verses that speak directly against that. If I remember correctly, I think it's Deuteronomy chapter
Jeremiah,
17, Jeremiah
Je-
chapter
Je-
31, Ezekiel chapter 18,
18,
and
Ezekiel chapter 33.
33. Yeah.
Mhm.
That very, very clearly speak against that. And in the Moses scroll, that caveat is applied to a different commandment that says, "Do not lift my name to deceive." Am I representing this correctly, Ross? For I shall avenge, the Lord says, I will avenge uh,
The iniquity.
fathers. I
Yeah.
will avenge the iniquity fathers, lifting my name to deceive, to deceiving their children and their grandchildren. So it appears to me, at least, to be descriptive of the iniquity, not the target of wrath, not the target of avengement. Here in the canonical text, it certainly seems to say, I'm a jealous God, and I'm going to visit this iniquity of the fathers upon the children. I'm going to punish them
Yeah.
for what's being done here. So you have an abridged version here from the Fraternal Order of the Eagles. I'm not so sure that I'm terribly opposed to that abridged version. What's your take?
I'm okay. Let's keep going. I'm okay. Even though it is different, because I remember particularly going through as I was working on my book, The Moses Scroll, the reaction of Franz Delitzsch and Schlotman, who said, "Don't you touch our 10 Commandments,"
Mm,
and "How dare you suggest that a version is different than our authorized version?" And the obvious almost chuckle is, well, which version are you
which
referring
version?
to? So
Hmm.
so now we are down to uh
Thou
actually, if you
shalt not
look.
take, yeah, the
Yep,
Fraternal Order of Eagles, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. King James
right.
says, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that takes his name in vain.
That's right.
Again, this is represented in the Moses Scroll, ED1. So you shall not swear by my name to deceive, because I will avenge the iniquity of the fathers upon the iniquity of the fathers of deceiving their children, the
Yeah,
fathers upon children to a third and to a fourth generation, for lifting my name to deceive, Ani Elohim Eloheka. And that does comport, I think, to I won't hold him guiltless, for misusing my name. Um, okay, so you shall not take the name of the Lord in vain. I'm okay with that.
yep.
As an abridged version, I'm not.
I
You know,
really, I really am wondering, because as I read this Fraternal Order of the Eagle version, I am reminded of a little Ross learning the 10 Commandments, and I
still a
want
little
maybe,
Ross,
yeah, maybe it was yeah, a littler, younger, not gray-headed.
younger Ross.
But I remember this is sounding familiar to me, maybe,
Mm,
because I don't remember as a child knowing, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that takes his name in vain. I do
mm,
remember, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain.
mm,
So I'm really, so let's keep going. But I think maybe this Texas, because that's where I grew up. I was in
mhm,
Texas. I went to school in Texas in the 70s. So
mm.
maybe I might have said the little put my little hand over my little heart, said the Pledge of Allegiance, and then
I love that.
did the 10 Commandments. Who knows?
There you go. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Short and simple.
Yep,
In the Bible, of course, says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy 6 days. So, as you mentioned before, excuse me, as you mentioned before, it takes from Exodus.
that's right.
Uh, Hang on.
Yeah, it takes from Exodus. And the other point that we'll make, since we brought up several things about the Shapira manuscript
Mm,
strips, is that it too looks more like the Exodus version than the Deuteronomy version in this particular
mm,
instance, except that the only version that I know of in all the world, in all of world history. Now, that's a pretty bold statement, Jono,
yeah.
that uses the first person all the way through, is the manuscript strips of the manuscript that Shapira came across.
The Shapiro
The
scroll. Now, of
only,
course, The Shapiro scroll, of course, the Sabbath commandment is number 2, and the reason for that is quite obvious. Number 1 is, don't make graven images. Don't engage in idolatry and bow down to them, because I am the Lord your God. And it says, and it follows on with, sanctify the 7th day. 6 days I made heavens and earth and all which is in them. In other words, there are no other gods responsible for all of the things. All
Yep.
of the things and all of the powers that you see at work are as a result of me. There is no other God to attribute them to. I did
Yeah.
all of that. I created it all in 6 days. That is the point. And the reason why it follows on from no idolatry. Here, we're a number down. And so, is it so necessary that the 6-day creation idea is put into the Fraternal Order of the Eagles? I don't know. What's your thoughts on that, Ross?
Well, I tell you again, I keep going back to the same reason I'm okay with it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the main essential point in each of these is clearly made. I mean, if you read it, it doesn't have the additional material, the supporting documentation. You know, one thing that scholars have really looked for since critical scholarship really began, I'm talking 17, 18, 1900s,
Mm.
is what was the original version of the Ten Commandments? Could it be that the original version, this is the thinking behind this quest, could it be that originally that God said to Moses and boomed in a loud voice to all those assembled at Horeb,
Mm.
that a very simple command about Sabbath? Remember, keep the sanctify the Sabbath day to keep it holy, or something like that. You know, could it be? And so this, in a sense, if you're teaching someone, it's a very interesting, I think, valuable teaching tool. So this is the next one. Don't violate the Sabbath.
Don't violate the Sabbath. The next, Fraternal Order of the Eagles, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God has given thee. And that's almost identical in the King James. The only interesting difference, there's a punctual difference, but a punctuation difference, but it is interesting that, of course, in the King James Version and most every version, Lord, Lord, is capitalized to represent the divine name, the Tetragrammaton.
Right.
Not so in the Fraternal Order of the Eagles, but when you had it up on the screen, I think I saw that it was capitalized with one of those fancy red letter capitals.
I see.
But it is an extra step distance, I guess, away from the Tetragrammaton. But this is not. I don't. I really think that this is an abridged version to spark to memory, to give you the essence of the 10 words. And if it doesn't inspire someone to go and become more familiar with their Bible, I guess it's on them.
Yeah.
I don't think we can put. It's kind of like where it says in the Torah, write it on the gates, on the posts of your door. I mean, write what? The entire Torah, on the gates of the door. Or is it
Yeah.
just the 10 Commandments? Or is it just parts of Deuteronomy? Is it the Shema? What is it?
Right.
And so here I think we have an abridged version. And so far I'm not terribly opposed to it. Any thoughts on this one, Ross?
I'm still okay. I really am still okay. Let's keep going through it and just knock this out. Let's make sure we get them all.
Thou shalt not kill is identical. Thou shalt not
Did you
commit
do honor? Yeah, you did honor father. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
commit
Yeah.
adultery is identical. Thou shalt not steal is identical. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not bear false witness against. Okay, that's the same.
Yep.
Uh, Here we go. Here we go. They spelled neighbor wrong. They've got some.
Yeah. Well, that's
That's,
that's the American way. See, in the
no, it's
50s,
wrong.
where we actually cared about the United States and we didn't want to be infiltrated by foreign speak like
It,
Australians or,
yeah, like the
other.
Queen's English that you brought across the sea with
Look,
you. You just decided to spell it wrong.
once you clear yourself of all that baggage, you just spell things much cleaner. Look at the difference though. Neighbor. Who needs a
Yeah,
U?
n-
You see?
there is neighbor. Spelt it wrong. That's what I'm saying. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor, spelt wrong, thy neighbor's house. Now, in the King James, of course, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his maidservant, nor his manservant, nor his ox, or his donkey, or his all the things. But they split that with, and the way it, as going back to the way we began this, it is split with a fancy red capital T for thou. So
Yeah.
they have, in a sense, itemized these commandments, and they've decided to itemize this one separately. And I don't think that there is a difference. It's just
There
that
is. There
is there a
is.
difference? Go ahead.
There is a difference, and I read this in Brettler's commentary.
Oh,
They
ass.
they change it. They say nor his cattle, replacing nor his
Well,
ox
his-
nor his ass, because there's this. It's an attempt to avoid saying ass, because because that can be taken the wrong way. And I remember it's
That's great.
almost like when I was a child growing up. Uh, I would never have said that. I mean, I would automatically, it's like a known deal. If you see that word in the Bible, and I had a King James, you
Yeah.
say donkey, because
Right.
you just don't say the a word. And so, but this is an attempt. I mean, you're going to have
That's
the
great.
Eagles, the Fraternal Order of the Eagles are probably good deacons in their churches, and they're like, you can't have the Ten Commandments say the A word. You have to put cattle in there.
You
And
can't make
so,
school children all read that and then
because
snicker. You
Jono,
know they're
growing
going to
up,
snicker. You know they're
and they're
going to,
gonna, yeah, that's right. The
and
little
they
boys,
should.
little 6-year-old boys, are like, oh, it's like this is, so it's gonna be cute, but it's not cute. The teacher's gonna have to keep a straight face and all
That's
that. So,
hilarious. Okay, so they changed that to cattle. All right,
yeah.
sure. Why not? Um, all right. So is that basically it? Now, I I just don't know that I am terribly opposed to it. I mean,
Well, all right. Give me your reasons. Let me before you do though, look at the next section in Brettler's article. Let me just pick this
mm,
up. Um, Rather than favoring the solution of any single religious tradition, the Eagles text avoids numbering the commandments. The version mandated by the Texas law simply, excuse me, simply list 12 separate commandments, even though the document has the title The Ten Commandments. This solution may have been an ecumenical foundation, but not dealing with arithmetic, since 10 does not equal 12. In any event, the Ten Commandments proposed by Texas law lets no one understand how 10 commandments might be derived from its 12 statements.
can
So
I
that's
can
kind
I
of interesting.
interrupt just for 1 second? Hold that
Sure.
thought, because I just want to interrupt and just tell everyone the Moses scroll also has no ass. It says,
That's
"You
right.
shall not you shall not desire your neighbor's woman, his servant, his maidservant, or anything which is his cattle,
That's
his
right.
donkey, or his or whatever." Ani Elohim Eloheka. So, okay, so it has that in common as well. I'm not
I
okay. Keep going.
I know when you threw this to me, and you were busy, I was busy, but I did look at it immediately and I thought, man, I'm not so opposed to this. But let me tell you what it really made me think, because like you, I did think of the Shapira manuscript and the 10,
Mm,
and I thought what the world needs is a new refrigerator magnet. What the world needs is a new, just like this one that they put out in the 50s.
mm.
What we need to do, and if Seth is still with us, he might be busy,
I
but
said,
either way, it would be nice for us to take the text of the Shapira 10, meaning not that they're Shapiras, but from that manuscript, and put in English and Hebrew a nice plaque that
mm.
people could download and print out and so forth, because I think it's fantastic.
So here's my question: if you were to do a refrigerator magnet, would you be tempted to abridge the 10 words as they appear in the Moses scroll? So before you answer that, let me tell you what I think.
All right.
I would be. I'd feel uneasy about that. And I guess it makes for a larger fridge magnet, but I don't see the problem in that. So
Yeah.
I feel more protective, I suppose, of the 10 words in the Moses Scroll, because I really honestly do believe that it's the original authentic
Yeah.
copy. Whereas the Pentateuch already admits we're not really sure. Here's one version in Exodus, here's one in Deuteronomy, here's
Here's
another one in
another one
Leviticus
in Exodus
19, here's
34. Here's another one in
Exodus
Leviticus. Yeah.
34. Yeah, here's a few for you to choose from. There's probably, Exodus 20 and Deuteronomy 5 is probably the most, but we've only got 9. But we'll just split. Do what you want
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah.
And it's already admitting we're not really sure. In fact, as we went through in our last series, all of the ancient copies of the 10 words are not really sure. This is the only one that we have that's in the first person, as you pointed out, and the only one that has specifically 10. Besides the Samaritan Pentateuch, we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. I therefore would be hesitant. So for fundamentalists who really do believe that the Torah is the inspired word and so on and so
Yeah.
forth, I understand that they too would be hesitant
Sure.
to abridge the 10 words. Thoughts?
My mind right now is on this version of the Shapira 10 that could be written out in English and Hebrew, maybe, where people could start learning these, and they're
Mm-hmm.
not so different than what they're used to, honestly. Particularly when you look at this version, for instance, which does slightly change. So I think that's one of the things we need to do, Jono, is put this out so that people can start teaching their children and so forth. Now, let me ask you this,
Mm.
kind of a question for a question. What do you think? Now, Texas is, Texas. Texas,
Mm.
I was born there. It can't be all
Yeah.
bad, right? I love
And
Texas.
g'day, Chad. Chad in
And
Texas there.
Chad's in Texas, and we probably have other Texans on.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this: in today's society, I would be surprised that, in other words, I wonder if the reason it was shelved in the Texas Senate
Mm.
was because it met initially with great opposition, and if you pushed it further, would it be further opposed? We live in a society, we live in a world that's not so fond of anything. Now, they're okay if you don't have a religious context. If
Mm.
you just said, here are some rules, don't kill other people, don't do this, don't, maybe. But if you start saying, I am the Lord your God, you should not have because then it bridges into this free, democratic, get your religion out of my face kind of. I would
Mm.
be highly surprised to see legislation not. I think there would be pickets in the streets. Even in the cases, I think it was in Alabama, where
Mm.
the judge really fought to keep the Ten Commandments in the courthouse. I,
Mm.
I tell you, I think it's going to be met with a lot of opposition if they do take it off the shelf and try to push it through this
I
Texas Senate Bill 1515.
I think surely it has got to be more beneficial to have an abridged version of the 10 words, or an abridged version of a representation of the 10 words on uh, public halls, schools, and courthouses, and so on and so forth, than to not have that at all.
Yeah,
I think I think to have it present um, displays a reverence and accountability that we should aspire to. And whether people take a notice of that or not, it's still there, and it ought to spark people into saying, "What is the origin of this?" And they should scour the internet and find us. But
yeah, that's right.
but to not have it at all and to remove it as something that should not be there, I think is would be detrimental. That's my feeling.
Well, I tell you, Jono, this is, I'm glad you gave me this article. I think
Right,
it's
Betty?
quite interesting. And I would encourage people to download this article. It's, again, the link is in the comments, in the description, not in the comments, in the description. And because it's very interesting. And I love when matters of the Bible meet face to face with modern culture, political, you name it. I like that, and I think it's an important part of our society because there
Mm,
still are many people who look to the revelation of Horeb as being a divine spark, an event that really changed the course of the world. And so I think that this is healthy for society, whether society admits it or not. And so I always like to see whenever something from the Hebrew Bible gets put forward in the face of the world, and they have to deal with it, just like
mm.
Texas will have to deal with.
And Christo makes a good point. Nothing stopping us from having it in our homes and congregations. Well, that's absolutely correct. And that brings me back to the Shema, and as it appears in the Moses Scroll, it says, "Hear, O Israel, Elohim is our Elohim is one." And you shall love Elohim your Elohim with all your heart and with all your soul, very exceedingly. This precedes the 10 words in the in the Moses Scroll. And
That's
these
right.
words which I am commanding you today shall be upon your heart and taught incisively to your children, and you shall speak of them when you sit in your house and as you walk along the way, and when you lie down and when you rise, and you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they will be as bands between your eyes. And you shall write them on the door frames of your house and your gates, your door frames of your house and your gates, because Elohim made a covenant with you in Horeb on the day of the assembly. So they are being instructed, Israel are being instructed, write these 10 words, because this is specifically the 10 words. Write the 10
Yeah,
words. And it's not too much to write. I mean, this is not too much to put on your fridge magnet, and put it on your fridge, or to put it on the door frame of your house or the gates, because you are supposed to uh, teach it to your children, and so on and so forth. It's just the 10 words. There it is. That's
that's
as much as it is,
that's a version
as it
for you.
appears in the Moses scroll.
In fact,
And
the first column is, remember, it's right to left. Uh,
mhm,
it begins with the Shema, and the part that you just read.
that's
That's the first panel. So
oh, there you
the
go. So
10,
the 10 words is even
yeah,
less.
it's three columns basically. So
There it
you
is,
know,
and
not that much.
it's not asking too much of you. Now, it doesn't say, to be fair, it doesn't say put it on in your
You're
schools and put it
on
in
your
your
refrigerator.
courthouses and put it in your. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing that, and it's not adding to the commandment to do such a thing and to legislate that such things should be done. But but Christo's right. There's nothing stopping us from having it in our homes and congregations. There we
Yeah.
go.
And just one other point that I'd like to make, sort of to what you just said. Um, I don't need the public school to teach my children or my grandchildren anything. In fact, I'd prefer. Let me correct myself. Religiously, just like I wouldn't want my children to learn of. I'm a little bit more liberal in this sense. So if my children were to come back, or my grandchildren, and they learned other world religions, I could sit down and have that conversation. But I think that outside of in a public system, I really want them to focus on the things that are going to be necessary to advance the basics in education that they need to get a job and to
Hmm.
function in society and so forth. So I think that even though I don't think that you have to keep all religion out, I'm not one of these who says, the whole world went to hell as soon as they took prayer out of school. I think it was well on the way, even when prayer was perfectly acceptable in school.
Hmm.
But but as the old joke says, as long as there are tests, there will always be prayer in school. Because
Hmm.
it's always little Johnny's got his head down saying, help me with this test. Um, but I don't think we have to have religious instruction in a public school setting.
Hmm.
but I wouldn't fight against this for sure. But I would, I might even bring it up to someone who was putting picket signs out and we need to put the 10 Commandments back in. I'd probably be the guy, Jono, that would say, which version? Have you heard that the
That's it.
Fraternal Order of the Eagles has.
I'm going to say one more thing. I think, further to what I was saying before, I think the fact that it is or was represented wholesale on these institutions is a reflection of society, not an attempt to convince society. It's more a reflection of a convinced society. And now the move to the push to remove these things from these institutions is again a reflection of society. And the Tanakh, the Torah presents the 10 words as something that is a divine moral standard that you must obey in order to be righteous. Not so in the Moses Scroll. What the Moses Scroll does is says, these are 10 words that God has given you that if you observe them, he will bless you by a divine hand in these
Yeah.
particular ways. You can observe and you can repeat. Um, and it's observable, it's repeatable, and it's up to the individual to do that. And so again, I think the representation of the 10 words in the fraternal, what is it, the Fraternal Order of the
Fraternal
Eagles,
Order of the Eagles.
is more a representation of society at large then, and the removal of such, or the push to remove today, is a reflection of society today. I think it's up to us to set an example, put it to the test, and see whether or not God keeps His word as it is recorded in the text.
All right. Jono, now listen, you have a different time zone than the rest of us, but most, I think, well, we've got a Kiwi as his self-proclaimed Kiwi.
There he
We
goes.
have Jeffrey and a few others from other countries that are probably listening
Jeff
in.
is 2 hours in the future from me. Yeah,
Is he really? I
he
thought you
is.
were right next door. I thought Australia
No,
and New
he's
Zealand.
2 hours. New Zealand is
I,
one of the first.
I thought you guys could like get together on Shabbat or something. You're not
No,
right there together.
he's the first major landmass to experience the new day after the international dateline. Go ahead.
Okay. So what I was going to tell people is whatever time you have to join us on Saturday morning,
Mm.
10:30 a.m. Central Time. Saturday morning, 10:30 a.m. Central Time. Uh, we begin a new study this Saturday on Isaiah. And get this, Jono, I'm
Oh
just
yeah.
going to say it.
Mm.
It's going to be new and improved. Thanks to Seth has streamlined audio, video, everything. We are now at a place where we can take some of the really nice things that Seth has done from a technological standpoint, and I'm going to be live Saturday
Oh, you're going to be
morning.
live.
That's right. That's
There you
right.
go.
So
You're
get
all right.
ready. Get ready,
Shooting invoice
everyone.
bills.
That's right, because we are going to jump into Isaiah, and I'm looking
Which
forward to
Isaiah?
it.
Don't
The
answer that
Isaiah,
question.
good question. Chapters 1 through 39. That's the way we're going to
All right.
start.
Okay.
So
Good stuff.
thanks by the way, Dolores. We appreciate the compliments. We love doing what we do, and we appreciate all the people. By the way, all of those who are members of the channel, who have signed up for membership in the channel and who support
Mm.
us in every other way. Thank you very much, our patrons, and we really appreciate it. You help us to do this so everyone gets to benefit. So thank you very much.
There you go. Once again, TanakhTours.com. TanakhTours.com. There's still a little bit of room on the Egypt tour. You've got to be quick if you want to get in there. And of course, the Israel tour. We've got a little bit more room there. That's the 12th to the 19th of November. The 31st of October to the 19th of to the 12th of November is our Egypt Jordan tour. You can do one or the other. You can do both and save $100 discount by doing both. And we would love to see viewers over there in the Holy Land with us. We're going to have an amazing adventure. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's shaping up to be our biggest tour yet. I think
Yep.
it's we've surpassed we've broken records, Ross.
You look, Jono, just so you know, I know that you probably we hadn't had a chance to talk, but while you were sleeping, I sent 3 people your way signing up today. Did you already check your email?
Have
We
they?
had
Well,
a woman and a couple who are signing up for the Egypt Jordan leg.
Oh, there you go.
So, hey, look, that's 3 more. Now, I don't know what the final numbers are, but I'm telling you right now, we are moving in the direction of filling that
And
bus. So,
not only that, but now we are bringing with us our very special guest, Seth Nichols, who everybody has wanted
right.
to meet all of their lives, and now is your chance. So that's it.
That's
We're
right.
going to be returning this time next week with a new topic. We have no idea what that's going to be, but we'll figure it out during the week, and it's going to be fun. So join us then, and until then, have a great one.
Have a beautiful week. Don't miss Saturday morning, 10:30
Saturday
a.m.
morning.
Central Time.
There you
Ross
go.
K. Nichols TV right here.
Live.